Hello, I'd like to take a few minutes to walk you through Connect and LearnSmart. Connect is our online assignment and assessment tool. There are many great features and assets within Connect. The one I want to focus on right now is called LearnSmart. LearnSmart is an adaptive diagnostic tool, an adaptive learning tool for students, and I want to spend some time talking about how it can help your students in your class, but also how it can really impact you, how you're able to teach, and the things that you can do in the classroom. Connect is fully integratable into your learning management system, regardless of whichever one your institution uses. But aside from that, you can talk to your sales rep more to get more details about how to integrate Connect into your learning management system on your campus. But here's a couple of questions. Are your students reading? It's a simple yes or no. What are some of the things that you're having to do or sacrifice in order to get your students engaged in the classroom, get your students reading? Are you having to give reading quizzes? Are you having to do things that take up and away from your instructional time that you have with your students just to get them engaged in the material? How would your classroom be different on a daily basis if your students showed up to class having read the material, having come prepared to class, and can now engage with the material? How would your classroom would be different if you could actually utilize your information, your knowledge, on a higher level of thinking, more application, more critical thinking for your students if they've read the material? So here's a solution to that. I'm going to walk you through LearnSmart. Within Connect, the LearnSmart modules and how they're designed to work is that they run themselves. You assign them to your students. Students do them on their own time outside of the classroom, and then they come class prepared. There are two very important things, and that's it, just two very important things that you have to be prepared and committed to doing. Number one, make LearnSmart a part of the grade for your course. It cannot be extra credit. Experience just shows students will not do it if it's extra credit, and the students who will do it aren't the ones who need it. So it has to be a part of your course grade, 10% or so, basically a letter grade for your class. I've seen instructors who've gone as high as, say, 25, even 30% of the course grade, and at that point they're requiring their students to do much more within each module. But that choice is really up to you. Here's the second thing. Have LearnSmart be due before your lecture on the topic. LearnSmart is not designed to be a capstone experience. It is Bloom's 1, Bloom's 2 information, basic foundational information. So if you have it as part of the grade for the class and due before you ever lecture on that topic, students have to read, they have to assess themselves, and now they come to class more prepared. And we'll focus on the back end of that and what you can do with that in just a moment. There's a module for each chapter. We basically call them modules, but it's basically for each chapter in the text. And this is how LearnSmart works. Your students are going to see fill in the blank, multiple choice, multiple choice, true, false questions, etc. LearnSmart is basically like working with a tutor for a student. And to continue that analogy, if a student are working with a tutor, the tutor's job is not to tell them everything. The tutor's job is to help them assess what they do and don't know and fill in the gaps. As such, they need to show up to their tutoring session prepared, and in this case, LearnSmart, prepared, having read the material and using this to self-assess. If you were to ask students, by a show of hands in your classroom, how many of you all have walked in to take an exam before and thought you were ready, and sometime during the course of that exam or soon thereafter realized that you weren't? What LearnSmart allows the students to do is to self-assess their confidence with the material through this bar at the bottom before they ever answer the question. So as I work through a module, I'm given a probe, and I have to assess whether I know the material or not. And that is how the system is actually going to be adapting to me. LearnSmart may look like flashcards, but the technology is much, much deeper than that. It is a continually adaptive tool to help your students learn the material. It's not necessarily an assessment. This is a learning tool. So as I work my way through here, as I got that question wrong, you may have seen this number stayed the same. I still have 123 items. You as an instructor cannot choose what questions are asked in a module. You can do that with any one of our test banks and build quizzes out and do that if you'd like to. That's not how LearnSmart works. LearnSmart is going to make that decision for your students and help to drive them based on their confidence and their competence. Again, like working with a tutor. So if you're tutoring a student, it wouldn't necessarily be a set questions that they would be asking, Questions would change based on how that student was performing, and that's what the system does for the student as well. These are called probes and not questions, and you can see I just got that one right, so it's now down to 122. A student's grade on a LearnSmart module is based on a percentage of mastery. It's simply based on completion. So if you give them 40 learning items to master by the due date, if as a student I were to get all 40 of those items mastered, not necessarily correct, eventually I have to get them correct, but mastered the concept and got it right, by the due date I get all of the points that you've designated for that assignment. Does that make sense? So versus any other type of assessment that you're going to have for your students, or they may have in other courses, this is a tool for them to master these concepts. Important to note for the student and for you, they will not see these same questions on an exam, whether you write the exam yourself or you pull from one of our test banks. That is not how this is designed to work. But if they've mastered the concepts, it doesn't matter how the question is asked. So you decide how much time on average you want your students to spend in this material before they come to class. They work their way through these modules. It's self-paced. It saves their progress as they go. So they don't have to finish a module in one sitting. They can just work their way through there. At the end of the module, students go back here to this reports button. And in their reports, what they're able to do is they can see what questions they missed on a module, on a LearnSmart assignment as they work their way through it. They can also see what their most challenging learning objectives were, what are some of the larger areas they've struggled with. And this is where it helps you. Because this is due for your class before they ever walk through the door, you can take 2 minutes before you walk in and look at your LearnSmart reports and see what questions students in the class were missing, what areas were they struggling with. Can you see where they're struggling with? Can you see where this would be beneficial? How would that change the conversation in the classroom? How you approach the topic in the classroom if you knew what your students didn't know before you ever lectured on it? You're now able to apply a little bit more. And I've seen instructors in history classes be able to take current events from CNN and bring them into the classroom because the concept is still applicable, even though it's over a different time period. That's a quick overview of how LearnSmart works. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact your McGraw-Hill representative. You can go to www.mcgrawhillconnect.com anytime to take a look for yourself. Again, that's just a quick overview. There's a lot more detail in here, but I hope this gets you started and excited.